Hi, my name's Paul Fournier. Welcome to a special edition of The Other Side. We have three special guests with us tonight. We have Donnie Berthium, Jen Gosher, Steve Comtois, all running for state rep. And we're going to get right at it. We got a lot of stuff to cover. And why don't we open up with just generalization about, what it is that made you guys run and where you stand. Donnie, if you want to go first, that's fine.
Originally, why I had done this was because and I'm sure Steve knows and everybody knows, the state cut our local funding. We were cut over $1 million in 2008, and that was devastating, to the schools, to our employees. And it seems the state, that's the first thing they go after. They say they're going to protect it, but local aid's the first cut. You don't see benefits for illegal immigrants getting cut or these other things. So that's why I wanted to run, because we don't have the necessary funds to run what we need in town. That's why the town hall had to close a day. And it's not just us, it's every town around is doing overrides and cutting people, and look at Hardwick and New Braintree, they're sharing a police chief now. Any way to cut costs. So what we're doing on the local level, the state is not doing on their level. And that has to end. And it's because of the one-party rule, obviously, in Boston that happens. So like I said at the Tea Party meeting the other night, I think 25 more Republicans and a Republican governor, and we can start getting things done. Because we are losing the state. This state is rich with history, and there's a lot of good people here, but now there's a lot of discouraged and upset people because of what's happening. And I'm sure these guys will tell you the same thing. When you talk to people, they're upset and they're depressed, and because they feel there's nothing they can do about it. But so that's why I'm running. So if we can get enough people down there, we can actually make a difference, because the one-party rule just isn't working. It's going the wrong direction. So that's my main focus.
Jen?
Paul, thank you for inviting us here tonight. I
You're very
appreciate it. Three things: limited government, less spending, and local control. I think we need all of the above. Limited government, less spending, and local control. And with that, I mean less taxation, less regulation, less spending, less immigration across the board. This country was built on small government. Our government is out of control. It's expanded beyond behemouthness. I mean, American democracy is supposed to be the will of the people. It's supposed to be small government. I want to see small government. I'm a constitutionalist, and I believe in small government, and I believe that the people are the backbone of this country. And here in Massachusetts, I said this the other night, I would like to see Massachusetts become a red state. That's my goal before I die.
We'll expand on that a little bit more.
You actually have people in the audience going, "Me too," the other night. Same thing.
Well, we're all hoping Jen's 20 years old as well.
So that's my goal, to see Massachusetts become a red state, and I think that it can happen. Texas, one of a state that I absolutely respect and aspire to be like, used to be a blue state. Today, Texas is a red state. So I think Massachusetts, has the capacity and the ability to become that red state. And I think that we can, because the climate is changing, the environment is changing, the mentality is changing. 10 years ago when I was a selectman, it was a lot more progressive. Today, we are a lot more conservative. So I see the swing, I see the pendulum moving right. I see us moving right, I see us moving red. I like it. Thank you very much.
Steve?
Thank you as well. Thank you, everybody, for having us here this evening. Great forum.
It's our pleasure.
I'm running because of the same reason I ran 8 years ago, because of my experience. I served as a school committee member. I saw the regulations that we're speaking of this evening. Moved on to the finance committee, moved on to a board of selectmen where I currently serve as a chair. We see these regulations that have a huge negative impact on our towns, our cities and towns. Not only these 11 towns in the district, but the entire 351 in the Commonwealth. I'm running because my experience not only on the municipal level, but on the business level as well, where we have that level of intrusion that's not needed in business. If we step back, take a look at what common sense approaches would do to businesses, we'd gain more jobs, we'd do a lot better, and that's why I'm running.
Awesome.
You said
Oh.
short and sweet, right?
Yeah, all great. No, listen, the whole thing is to make sure that people can feel what you guys are really about, and we want to make sure that we get your points across to who's ever watching the show and the tapes and stuff. So we're going to get right into the questions. And we're going to go, let's get into the hot topic buttons. We've got immigration, road aid, local aid, school aid, welfare reform. Where do you feel you can be most effective? What is the top priority of all these issues for you as a candidate? And because Donnie went first, we're going to go to you first, and you can start, Jen.
Okay, can you be a little more specific? Because there are a lot of issues.
Okay.
Which issue would you like me to address?
Let's look at, let's
Well,
pick,
the way that I heard it was, what's your biggest issue? What you can
what's
do?
your
My
biggest,
biggest issue, I guess, the biggest issue that I would like to focus on if I do get to Boston is to advocate, wholeheartedly for more local aid to cities and towns. And local aid, by local aid, I mean, local aid and Chapter 90 and Chapter 70 monies.
Okay.
Because I believe the state is totally in violation of redistributing the money back to the cities and towns. We don't get the adequate proportions that we need back to the cities and towns to fund our roads, to fund our schools, to fund our local services. So right away, number one, absolute number one priority is the local monies. We pay plenty in tax dollars as far as state taxes.
so we pay more out and we don't get enough
That's
back.
correct. We don't get our return. There's no return on our investment for local cities and towns.
Yep.
Yeah, what happens is the money goes to Boston and it stays in Boston, and the legislature there chooses to build government and grow government. We don't need to build government and grow government. We need to send the money back so that we can have local control of our schools and our roads. We, as local cities and towns, can best decide and make the proper decisions as to how that money can be spent. So that's my number one priority.
Okay. Same thing to you, Steve. What do you feel is the one area of all the hot topic buttons?
All the hot top, we're all going to agree that it's local aid.
Okay.
The biggest financial piece in any town is education. That school budget is a make or break for all local towns, not just this 11 towns, again, 351. From day one, that education piece. I'm a vocational educator in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Huge, I'm proud of being a carpenter. I've done very well by myself and my family. I see the kids out there in the communities doing well for themselves and bringing back. We need to restructure that vocational piece. Obviously, there's a federal piece into that as well. That's a 74 education. Revamping the foundation formula is huge. That brings more money back. Every 2 years we have the discussion, and when we have an open seat now, now you see the 70s and 90% of the regional transportations. It was mandated 100%. All these carrots that are dangled out to these towns for regionalizing, it's a shot in the face. And it's,
Yeah, we're going through the same thing here.
and it's criminal. You wonder why North Brookfield doesn't want to tie into a school system to gain anything. They really don't. They lose that local control.
Right.
I want to get on the education committee. That's where I'm going to be effective. I have that background. I have that drive. I have that compassion, and it's going to bring more money back to all 351 cities and towns.
Donnie?
Like Steve said and Jen said, local aid, just to put this in perspective for people. And I think I said this Monday, and you weren't here. This year, our new growth, so new monies is the 2.5 you can go up automatically every year, plus any new growth you have in town. And I think our number was around 240 roughly. So our new bill from the state for the school was maybe 260, and these might be. But the point is that the state's mandating that you pay more than you can actually take in. So every year it's if I think it's for the last 3 years, it's been a loss for our town. So we actually have to come up with more every year instead of gaining a little every year. And once again, you don't see other things getting cut in the state. Governor Patrick in the last 8 years has hired 10,000, and you can't find out the exact number, 10,000 plus new employees in the state. And nobody seems to know where they go. So Jen's right. Government keeps growing. They're spending the money there. Why isn't it coming back to the cities and towns? Another one is sending the kids out of district. And I'm all in favor of a good education, but the state mandates that if somebody wants to take a course in a vocational school, I don't know how many, Do you guys have any? That
We
go
have a
on?
vocational program, so we're very lucky. We
Oh,
have a
you are,
great school
because we
system.
belong to Bay Path. But however, if the course isn't offered at Bay Path, and the big one for us is the agricultural schools, then you're on the school committee. We have to pay for this kid to go, and we have a few going to Norfolk. I don't even know where that is. So it's $45,000-$50,000 a kid, maybe. I mean, it was
That's just
upwards of.
that's transportation.
No, I
costs,
mean
yeah.
both
Yeah.
together, tuition,
Yes.
transportation. So it's upwards of 260,000. It was, I think, my last year, and we have to pay that. If you do not pay that, the state will take that out of your local aid cherry sheet. So you have to pay it. It's these unfunded mandates and the formulas. The local aid and the school formulas. It's killing the towns, and
All right.
that's hence the overrides.
All right, so all three of you have agreed that local aid is the big key. So now one of the three of you.
And the formulas. There's a real
Right.
problem with the formulas.
So one of the three of you are going to take this trip into Boston. So you keep talking about the local aid. So let's get right to the local aid. And what is it that you want to really try and change to get the money? Now, we're not talking just Spencer, obviously. You're talking
All 11 towns.
all 11 towns. So, we're only going to reach what's in Spencer here, plus whatever we get on YouTube. But what direction, or how are you going to make a change?
I think I stated that right off from day one. It's that experience that I have in education. The beauty of being a Republican on Beacon Hill is that there's it's a double-edged sword. There's not a lot of us. You kind of have your choice of committees down there. Education, day one, I'm going to get in there. I'm going to make that change. The foundation formula for education is antiquated. Not enough money's coming back. You need an actual degree in brain surgery to figure it out, that formula. Make it easy, make it more pliable to towns, cities, revamp it.
How do you make it fair?
What you do is you reach out to the people that haven't had to implement it, the superintendents. You meet with them in the district, like I have been, and they're going to tell you how to do it. And you bring that back to your committee, you legislate law, a bill, and then you hopefully get it signed by the governor. And like
Jen?
Donnie was saying, that hopefully that Republican governor.
Jen, how do we make that change?
How do we, that's such a.
It's a broad brush. I
Yeah, it's a
agree.
broad brush.
But there's got to be some. You got to walk into Boston on that first day, and you're going to say, "This is what I want to do."
Well, I think if I make it to Boston, I think that just my presence in Boston will open doors.
So you going in with a bat? Is that what the-
No, it's just, I'm notorious for, taking charge and getting things done. That's just part of my tenaciousness, I guess, and my, the fact that I have, I run small businesses, and, working with the other side is tough. Absolutely, it's tough. But you have to find allies. I think that's so important, to find allies that you can, that you can side with to try and get things done. So I know that the Republican delegation is minimal. Clearly, that's the case. So that's going to be difficult to
Welcome
start.
to Massachusetts.
Right. So you have to reach out, and I'm not familiar with all of the Democratic legislators down there, and where they stand on the pendulum, so to speak. But I would
You're
try
looking
to
for some bipartisan help.
I would try to find some allies and say, listen, because I know for a fact that there is common ground with fiscal issues. There's no doubt in my mind.
Sure.
There are Democrats in Boston who believe that spending, taxation, and regulation are out of control. So it will be imperative to seek out those Democrats and try to make friends.
Like-minded.
Yes, and see if we can come up with a solution.
All right. Donnie?
Here's the problem, and I can give you an example. People need to know how the legislators vote. I will guarantee you 100% that 99% of the population of the state does not know how the legislators vote. One of the issues that just happened, you saw immigration. They were going to send a bunch of kids here. When they were polling and everybody's keeping track, and 80% of the people in the state said, we don't want those illegal immigrant children here. So what happened? They didn't come here. And they didn't come here because the governor changed his mind, obviously, because, I mean, let's face facts, the illegal immigrant, it's all about votes and nothing else. They came here because enough people got angry and said, you're not coming here. And obviously, it's an election year, so politicians said no. We need to, everybody, and not just us, everybody, and we said this to the Tea Party the other night, all of us told them that, you have to help educate people. And I think this year you're going to see that through mailers and other things. As far as how to get stuff done, we have to do like we did in Spencer. When we lost all that money, and I said this to Bob the other night, we have a left-wing Democrat and a Tea Party guy on the board, and we got it done. You saw what we did with insurance costs and combining jobs, and I mean, the first thing we did was give up our salary. That's how you do it. You work together to get it done. And Jen's right. There are Democrats
So
down there.
it sounds like you guys are all pretty much on the same page about going in there and really, you know, I think the bipartisan part of it is in hooking up with the Democrats. Is
You
what-
have to.
We have to prioritize the fiscal issues because I think that's where there's common ground. Not with all the Democrats, because we know that our opponent that's running believes in big government. Because we heard
He
him
said that. I said this.
He believes in not less government, but better
yeah,
government.
he stood up in Barry and said, I am not going to talk out of both sides. And what did he say? I am not going to lower your taxes by one penny.
Right.
And then he said right after that, people, and he, as sincere as can be, he said, people do not want smaller government. They want better government. So I couldn't write that stuff down fast.
But
That's-
he also has the plans that you're asking us, where we have plans to get in there and make the difference. And he has the same desire as myself, and he's stated that he wants to be on that education committee. I've gone down as a school committee member, and I've lobbied for money back to Brookfield. And if you ever sat, and I've testified in public hearings as well for local control, if you've ever sat in any of those hearings, it's extremely liberal. And to send another Democrat down there that has those same views is a detriment to this district.
Awesome. We're going to go from the local aid. Obviously, immigration we've already talked about.
We're not going to differ on any of that.
Yeah.
no.
We can't afford immigration.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
mean,
and
it's-
that's what it
We
comes
can
right down
afford
to.
immigration, but not illegal immigration.
We can't afford
That's the key
illegal
word.
immigration.
Right.
Right.
Immigration is what made this country. We can never lose
Oh,
that.
that you can never lose that. I mean, absolutely.
But it's illegal
Illegal.
immigration
It's the
that
illegal
is the
stuff that-
issue, is the main issue, and we can't afford it. We can't afford it in the country. We can't afford it in the state.
Well, let's stay on it for a couple of minutes then, because that seems to be a little bit of a hot button. Well, Don, we'll start with you.
It's all about votes. I mean, you have to agree. Governor Patrick talks about compassion. And my mother was as left-wing liberal as they come. God bless her. Even she had had enough of him. He talks about compassion, and we heard this. You know, he was trying to use an analogy about a boat we sent back with Jewish kids during the Holocaust. I mean, it was ridiculous. It's all about votes. There's no compassion about. I mean, look how long Justina Pelletier was kept from her parents. Was it like a year? It was a long time.
It was quite a while.
And the poor kid in Fitchburg that got killed, and all the other kids, and what is it, 100 and something kids they still don't know in DCF. It's not about compassion. This is all about votes. Because if somehow all these people here get amnesty and get the right to vote, and you know that's going to happen, and that's what the driver's license thing was all about, and that was headed into that. Then you lose your country. I mean, if there's 10 million illegal immigrants, that's 9 million votes for the party that gave them amnesty.
So you're looking for immigration control.
Absolutely. They shouldn't be here. If you come across the border, you should be sent back. And I told Bob the other night, Sheriff Evangelides called me. He was watching them walk across a bridge over the river. And 10 out of the 100 on the bus were little kids, 10 were senior citizens, and the middle were 18 to 25-year-olds. So, I mean, the media's lying to us, and, I mean, they just don't belong. Why let them come in? So you don't belong here and stuff. I mean, and that's a federal issue, but we can certainly, in this state, tomorrow stop welfare for illegal immigrants and demand a Social Security card. And the Republicans have brought forth many times, you need a valid Social Security number to get benefits, and we have placeholders, or we have the honor system in the state. So you can say you live here, even if you can't speak English, and you get it.
I gotta stop you right there. That's
Did I go on too far?
That's a little bit too long.
Sorry.
We got you in,
Sorry.
Jen.
You just kicked me in the leg.
Okay, as far as illegal immigration is concerned, two things. Two things that I think would help to solve the problem. First and foremost, we have to stop enabling bad behavior and stop incentivizing bad behavior. And what I mean by bad behavior is we need to stop saying, yes, it's okay to be an illegal in Massachusetts, because it's not. It's not okay. It's wrong. You're in violation of the law.
What is it? It's not illegal to be illegal in Massachusetts. or something.
Technically,
yeah, something like that.
technically,
the
it's
quote.
not illegal to be illegal. So, number one, we stop enabling and incentivizing bad behavior. No more benefits for illegals. None.
So that's
no.
that's gonna roll into the next one, which is called welfare reform. But you keep
Okay,
going on
okay,
immigration.
but so that's number one. And number two, we need to make English the official language of the state of Massachusetts. And there are no exceptions across the board. Those doing just those two things would eliminate 90% of the problems with illegal immigrants right there. That would solve 90% of the problems. Okay?
Steve?
Well, I'm not an extremist. I don't know about the making English the language. I got a haircut today, and it was in the town of Southbridge, and they all spoke Spanish. So I'm not opposed to it. I know enough to
With the last name like Comtois.
to get in trouble. I know enough at the high school days. But this is an issue that has 100 different prongs. We can go down so many different roads.
Sure.
The illegal immigration, to me, is that welfare reform, that EBT card system, giving out cards and benefits to dead people, over 100,000 dead people, hundreds of millions of dollars of waste in that program, the EBT. It can be solved tomorrow if we had the chutzpah to do it. We get into the driving piece. I own a driving school. We're arguing about giving driving licenses to illegal immigrants. But at the same time, in the same conversation, we're arguing to make gun ownership harder for law-abiding citizens in Massachusetts. Last time I checked, more people are killed in car accidents than gun accidents or physical shootings. More people are killed with knife stabbings than guns. There's just so much play, and it's all politics. It's all votes, and we need a common sense approach, and we need it now.
We're going to skip to education. I think is a hot topic, and throughout the country, not only just in Massachusetts, but throughout the country, we've gone from race to the top to Common Core, implement this, implement that. Steve, you got the education background. We'll let you start. How do you feel about Common Core testing in our schools? Should we adopt it? Do you feel our students now are over-tested?
100% students are over-tested. We should not adopt Common Core. Schools have the option to opt out of Common Core. And there's so many prongs, but that experience is where we need down in Boston. That race to the top piece, if you have that race to the top piece, you can't opt out of it. So that's a huge issue to schools that signed on to that. We need assessments, not only on the students' level, but on the educators' level as well. I'm huge into that.
Okay, that was going to be my follow-up, but go ahead, keep going.
Longevity, our opponent up in Hubbardston claims there is ramifications and people can get out. I had the opportunity to teach because an individual had that longevity piece and they couldn't get him out. I had to replace him for a year because he was playing games with the school. Who does that affect?
Kids.
The kid, 100%. People want to say the taxpayers, but it's the kids. And you saw him hurt. I had kids calling me when he came back and said, "Steve, please come back. We need you." This guy's a joke, but they had to keep him. But we need to test kids. We have to. We have to see what they've retained, but we can do it in a better manner. I was an advocate for MCAS when it first came out, but the way that it was set up, they kept raising the bar higher and higher, and it was almost at a level where it was unreachable, and that was an issue, so that needed to be reformed. Why would you want to revamp something that is at the top of all 50 states? Massachusetts is the leader in education, in my opinion. Why wouldn't you want to take that model and use it throughout the whole country? But at the same time, I'm not a fan that it's the local control. Massachusetts knows best on how to educate Massachusetts children, as opposed to Alabama, Hawaii. Let them have that local control. I don't think the federal government needs to be involved in education, to be honest with you.
Awesome. Jen?
I absolutely disagree that the federal government has any jurisdiction whatsoever in education. There's no justification in the Constitution for the federal government to be involved in education. I believe it's a local issue, and we know best how to educate our kids. It's between the parents and it's between the schools, and that's where it needs to be, because that's how we can best educate our kids. as far as testing, back when I was in school, the tests were SATs.
That was
P-
that. Then you needed that to go on to
Well,
college.
To go on to
they're still
college.
there too, and believe it or not, there a lot of colleges aren't even looking at SATs anymore.
Right, but then we moved to MCAS in the 80s,
Right.
or the early 90s. And now with this Common Core, which I don't agree with Common Core, I don't advocate for Common Core, and I don't believe in race to the top because I don't believe in federal control at all, at all. I mean, if I was one vote in Boston, I would vote against any federal intervention in education. And I believe that schools should be education facilities, not testing facilities. And it seems that over the years they've become testing facilities. I understand that we need to have a universal test. And MCAS was working, but prior to MCAS, SATs really did work too. But as far as Park, the new testing requirements attached to Common Core, I don't agree with it at all. I don't support it. Let's go back to MCAS. You know, back when MCAS first came to fruition in Massachusetts, everyone was against it. But 10 years later, you know, it came to people decided that, you know what, MCAS does kind of work.
Well, and just real quick on that, being on the school committee and MCAS stuff, I think the theory of MCAS was good. And
Which
I
is
thi-
most pieces of legislation. The theory behind it is
The
good.
theory behind
But
it
the
is good, but
implementation-
the implementation at the school level, I think, created a problem of the teachers not being allowed to teach because MCAS scores were so tied into how
And that
much
was-
money you got.
That was the entire mantra, was teaching to the test.
Right, teaching to the test, I don't agree with, and that, you know, that should never be the case.
Well,
at
I
the
think
same-
that's
at-
the road we ended up going
But
down.
at the same time, when you say teaching to the test was the curriculum. And that was the frameworks of Massachusetts, that the curriculum of Massachusetts, and that's what you wanted these children to learn, was what we set up as a curriculum. So it's a double-edged sword.
Right.
You know, you kind of want to teach to the test because that's the curriculum you want your child to learn.
And I apologize, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I agree. I agree. You should never, kids, you know, the whole beauty of education is that there's supposed to be freedom in education. And the teachers are supposed to be able to teach the way that they teach. That's why you have different teachers, so that you can experience the individualism of all the different teachers. So I don't.
And we want to keep Matt teaching at Quabbin as well, so.
And I agree with that. And I don't agree that teachers should teach to the test. So, you know, I would actually like us to get rid of all of the tests and just go back to SATs.
Well, I'm gonna let Donnie answer, and then I'm gonna read a little something from Tom Birmingham, who was one of the co-authors of Common Core, and then we'll tread down that road a little bit.
They're both right. I had said this the other night. Why, and I can't remember what the Democrat Matt said, but he kind of, I don't think he really answered the question, but it was about the Common Core issue. And I said, why would you want to take some? So our kids are number one in the country. They're not close. Massachusetts has the smartest kids out of all 50 states. They're the best educated. We are on par with most of the Asian countries and all the STEM classes. Why wouldn't you model that, the federal education thing, if you want to do something, after us, instead of this Common Core thing? My son's teacher last year, we actually had a meeting with her because he was doing division, and it was get the answer about right. And I didn't get it. It was, no, it was addition, I'm sorry. They didn't even teach me how to do addition. It was like 3 numbers, add the 3, 2 3-digit numbers, and what's about the answer. It's like, no, it's not about what's the answer. This is how you do it, and you practice it, and you get it right. And we just wanted to make sure, because we taught him the right way to do that in division, that he wouldn't be graded wrong. And they said they only grade the answer now. They don't grade the work. So however you get there. And Jennifer's right, too. The Constitution specifically states that any rights in there that are not designated to the federal government automatically fall back to the states. There was no Department of Education until Jimmy Carter instituted, and I think it was 78 or around there. So it should be a state system. We should opt out of it, and I think our school committee has opted out of the testing, right, until at least next
No,
year.
we're still in MCAS.
Right. So they
Yeah.
opted out of the parks. So.
Yeah, that was an option.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's good. That's good. I'm glad that they did.
All right, so we've got the Common Core issue. Let's go back to, I think Steve mentioned it, let's go back to accountability. And accountability comes back to the teachers. And that means we need somebody who's going to grade these teachers based upon their teaching ability. So Jen, we'll let you start first, and you know, how do we fix it? Where do we?
You know, it's so tough as far as, you know, and I know the teachers' unions don't like accountability because it is tough, because a teacher can be penalized. A teacher can be a very good teacher but have a very bad class. And I know because I was an adjunct professor at Becker. And you know, I understand how that works. You know, you just like when you're a coach, you might have a good team, you might have a bad team, but you know, it's tough, and I'm not sure how to go about it, but definitely the teachers need to be acknowledged on their merit. Absolutely. And I don't agree with tenure, so I will say that. I don't agree with tenure because I believe in merit. You know, I'm from the private sector. I have private sector mentality. I don't have union mentality. So that means that I don't believe that you should get a raise based on time. I believe that you should get a raise based on merit. And just because you have a bad class here and there doesn't mean a teacher should ever be penalized. Because it happens.
Sure.
You know, it's the luck of the draw, and who, you know, however they do it by alphabetical order, or, I don't know, however you get your class, or you know. So there definitely needs to be a system where the teachers are rewarded for merit. I don't agree with tenure. I will say that. I don't agree with getting raises based on time either. I believe in raises based on merit.
Steve?
We had this discussion last time we sat here. I've sat on the other side for 4 years on negotiating contracts with teachers. My last year, we actually implemented a piece to associate MCAS. The conversation's held every day with unions and the contract negotiations for that merit-based pay. They don't want to tie in that MCAS for the same reasons Jen's saying, is that the teachers really don't want to be judged for that one class. And it's you know, it's not every class, it's just a certain grade throughout the whole system that gets that report and it's based on. But at the same, and that's where the double-edged sword comes in. It's the collective group of teachers that are educating our children, and that's what we're sending them there for. We're entrusting that system to work. So I would almost argue on a state level, there's not much we can do or should do. It comes back to that local control, and that's where I was disheartened that you did not enjoy your tenure in the school committee, because that's one of the three pieces that a school committee does, is that contract negotiation. You can do it there. You know, Matt did say that there was accountability for teachers. I disagree. You'll have a principal that goes into a classroom and does a site visit once in a while and writes up his report. But unless you do something extremely egregious as a teacher, you're there for life once you've reached that tenure piece. And that's where that school committee needs to take control, and that's that local control. And it has to be collective. You know, the people are elected. School committee members are elected. If you're not happy, get out there and support a candidate that says they're going to do what you need to do.
Donnie?
Teachers nowadays, it's unfortunate, especially in Spencer. I mean, you know, I've sat through, I think, 4 contract negotiations, and we have that reputation, or the teachers union does. I think we can get around the bad class thing by actually having somebody go in and observe. The problem is here in Spencer is I still don't think they have an evaluation thing in place. I'm not sure.
We don't have we don't have the one that the state has implemented.
But has any been implemented? I'm not sure it has. I know part of the getting the race to the top money was that you would evaluate teachers by certain standards, and it might have been done. I mean, I'm not sure, but and there's a lot of good teachers out there, and there's a few bad ones. The problem comes, and here's where I don't understand. If I was the president of a teachers union, I would not want a bad teacher that everybody knew was a horrible teacher, that shouldn't be there, shouldn't have been a teacher in the first place. Why? And obviously the parents are going to know if that teacher's a bad teacher, and the principal and all the people that might have to evaluate this person. Why would you want that person there? Because if it's all about the kids, which we hear all the time, and which is the teachers union mantra, and I'm talking specifically this town because I don't know about the other ones, then wouldn't you want the best teachers there? Would you not want any teacher that's a detriment to the system removed? And wouldn't you think that the rest of the teachers in the union would want that teacher not there because that teacher gives them a bad name? So yes, and merit raises, that's great, and we bring that up, and you want to see chairs fly around the room when you mention merit raises, but it's fun. So you learn a lot.
So accountability and evaluations obviously they're kind of tied in together.
Paul, could I say one thing?
Sure, absolutely.
As far as giving, teachers raises based on merit, I mean, you have to be careful, and I just jotted this down. Because who's actually grading the teacher? Who's judging the teacher?
Well, that's the issue that we had. It has to be tied back to that MCAS score or some type of testing.
But I mean, I considered myself a tough teacher. I taught math, and I taught 8th grade math at Becker freshman year. You shouldn't be teaching 8th grade math in freshman year. But nobody can do math when they get to freshman year in college. So anyways, I consider myself a tough teacher only because I had expectations. In other words, I gave homework. I expected the kids to do it. And when I set a date for the test, I expected the students to be there to take it. So academically, it's important that teachers be tough academically because that's really the only way that the kids will learn. So it's important not to ever penalize teachers for being tough teachers. So you got to take that into consideration. Kids like weak teachers.
It's a little easier to get through school.
That's right. But a good teacher is academically
But that's why they're taking
strong.
That's why they're taking Jen's 8th grade math class as a freshman in college.
Yeah,
because we're failing them at this level, and we can't afford to, and nor should we.
All right. Steve, I know you don't live in our town, but you must have heard about.
I own a business in this town, so I'm in
all right.
this
So
town.
you must have heard about this past Monday we had.
The black.
Okay. We're gonna touch that subject for a minute, if that's all right. I want to know what your feelings. I want to know what your feelings are about. We've got teachers working without a contract, and this was their free day. Okay. Normally, what it is the superintendent has a breakfast, and hey, here's our goals, and the teachers are setting up classrooms, and they get together. But on this day, everybody wore either a black shirt or a black T-shirt,
solidarity, yeah.
and it was a sign of solidarity. And I think in the middle of this, a bunch of them got up and walked out. So, Donnie, I'm going to start with you.
I think we spent a half hour on this the other night. Here's the problem. It's not the teachers in this town. I have a lot that are friends. I'm sure you do too. The union president, for some reason, thinks he knows how to operate politically or whatever. So what does the general public see and people with kids? Like I have a 10-year-old at Wire Village. What do they think when they see this? And it's not that you're working without a contract because people know how good our teachers' contract is. People know that we're the only school system around here that I could find that when you say you're going to retire, you get an automatic 10% raise.
Only if you give a year's notice, right?
No, you can do it two ways. So you can say 3 years from when you're going to retire, you can say, I'm going to retire. So you get a 3.5, 3.5, 3. Or you can say...
Yeah, advance notice.
Right. Or you
Right.
can say, I'm retiring next year, and you get the 10% for the last year. Nobody has this. We have more bereavement days. We have more buyback days. All our schedules of extra activities that the teachers do is a lot higher than other districts. So they really got a good deal here. Our retired teachers, we're at, what is it now, 75-25. It was 90-10 or 95 as far as percentages they had to pay. And now they're 75-25, I believe.
Well,
it is.
let's stay focused on what happened that day, not so much on the teacher's
Okay.
contract and what they get and not get. What did you feel?
Well, I'm trying to give you a little background because
I know, but you're going to go past your 2 minutes.
We don't have
because
time.
they have, they have a good deal in this town, and Mark James is single-handedly making the public hate every one of them, and he's wrong, and he doesn't know how to negotiate, and he doesn't know what he's doing, and it's too bad because he's a great teacher, and I had to give him props for helping the kids in our Christmas parade with the float. Him and Dave Bayshot did that, but when they do silly, childish, inane stuff like this, it just makes the whole group of teachers look bad.
Steve, we're going to go to you.
See, I disagree. I believe it's the group that makes the group look bad because it's not just him carrying the water. He does the speaking in the contract negotiations, but you have to have a collective majority that's going to back this conversation. So, you know, it's shame on the teachers for that, but at the same time, the teachers know that there will be a contract. At the end of the day, a contract's going to be signed, and anything that they get is going to be retroactive. So shame on them for that. But it's sad because my career as an educator and life, period, I've probably met less than a handful, and I'm 42 years old, and the grays are starting to show that age and that experience.
Just wait till you hit 50.
Thanks, I appreciate that. I've literally met only a handful of bad seeds in that group that give these teachers a bad name. And that double-edged sword that I speak about all the time when I try to make a decision, these teachers are looking out for themselves. They're looking out for their family, their bills, their livelihood. Good for them. You know, they do what they do. That's why they're in collective bargaining and whatnot. But they will have a retroactive contract at the end of the day. We had this in Brookfield when we didn't have a contract before the school season started. They actually kind of pseudo-picketed a family fun day activity at night before a meeting, and that was shame on them. And they had the contract. It's just getting down there in the trenches and working out a deal.
Jen?
And that's that collective bargaining piece.
Well, first and foremost, what I'd like to say is I think that the teachers in the town of Spencer have an extraordinary contract. Extraordinary. Bigger and better than probably the rest of the towns and cities in the state of Massachusetts. It's a phenomenal contract. They have negotiated that to their advantage beyond reproach. So their contract is very sweet. Leadership. Leadership is very important. And sometimes you have to step away from the pack to show leadership. And unfortunately, most of the people in this world don't have the courage to do that and the backbone to do that. And that's a shame. Because I think if some of those teachers did step up to the plate and stepped away, I think,
You're saying step away from the union part of it.
yes. Not get out of the union,
no.
but say, you know what, I'm
Enough
in the
is
union.
enough.
Enough is enough. I think we need solidarity here, and we need to do what's best for the kids. If 1 or 2 or 5 teachers step forward, I think they would be rewarded for that. I don't think they would be punished for that. Sure, maybe the union president would be upset, but so what? You have to show leadership, and leadership means stepping away from the majority and becoming a minority, and saying what maybe other people want to hear, but no one will say.
Okay.
So that's important. And I think that the teachers, as a group, are setting a bad precedent for the kids. I don't think it's right for the kids.
Well, we could keep going on with
So
something
that's
like
every
this,
one of
'cause it
these
was-
issues.
Yeah, well, you know,
And that's the beauty of a 2-year term down at Beacon Hill, isn't it? It's never enough.
you know, when we first asked you guys on, the one thing that we wanted to do was save about 15 minutes at the end, and we've already gone through 45 minutes, believe it or
Wow,
not.
really?
So
Don't we get 2 hours?
we could stay here as long as you want.
We should go 2.
You know, doesn't matter to me. It's
Doesn't
up
matter
to
to me.
it's up to those guys.
I can go another hour.
Listen, it's going to be taped. We only got 1 hour live, but the rest of it will be taped. And if you guys want to keep going, we'll keep asking questions until.
I'd like to hear from the town of Spencer myself.
Yeah, there's nobody calling? Nobody cares?
We've had a couple. Nobody's called in.
They went to
Joe,
bed already.
People have called in, but not over the phone. They've just left messages. 1. Yeah. You want to hit the gas tax?
In regards to what?
That was the-
I own a driving school. I don't support
Yeah, I
it.
don't
No.
support it either. I'm not happy about that.
Listen, if you guys want to stay here for a little while longer, more than the hour, we can say goodbye after the hour and just keep going. Or if you got just the next.
Are we live right now on
We're
TV?
live right now.
That's what I thought. Okay.
You know, but we only get an hour and a replay. The YouTube version will be longer, but the actual replay on TV will only be an hour.
Well, let's stop wasting time. Let's get this.
All
Let's
right.
go. Let's go.
Let's
We
go.
need questions.
All right, I'm going to. I just want to go back to the solidarity thing just real quick. I understand that them getting together like that, showing support for each other, I think is great. I think it would have had more of effect if it was done at a school committee meeting rather than the superintendent coming in and speaking with them to start the year. That's the only issue I had. I don't have a problem with it, and I understand it. I just wish they had done it at the school committee meeting so that, you know, the school committee could feel.
If we're wishing, I wish they didn't do it at all.
I-
And they
listen,
sat down at the table and
yeah,
hammered out
I
a
understand.
deal.
Yeah, listen,
So wherever fashion they do it, that, you know, more power to them. It's up to them. If
I
they
understand.
if they're not getting paid for it, if it's one of their free days, more power to them. As long as they're not doing it in the classroom with my kids in it.
That's bad, very bad judgment.
Leadership is what's doing the best, what's in the best interest of the kids, always. And you know, I don't think a lot of times they think about that.
So we're all in agreement. We're just going to keep rolling here.
Keep rolling.
All right, let's go.
Fire away.
Let's go to marijuana.
Well, I hope you don't have
Did
any
you bring
here.
it back?
Where do you stand on legalizing marijuana now that medical marijuana is a reality? Just give you some quick numbers. 48% of likely voters said they would support a ballot question making it legal for adults over 21 to consume or possess limited amounts of marijuana, while 47% said they would oppose such a measure. 5% said they don't know how they would vote. I think, Donnie, it's your turn to go.
The problem with this whole marijuana thing, like we did the medical marijuana.
Yep.
I mean, it's a good idea for people that can need it and it can help, and it has been shown in studies to help people. The problem is in this state, we always pull the cart before the horse. So without any regulation, any idea how this is going to work, how many there's going to be, we put a question on the ballot, and then automatically we institute medical marijuana. So for last year and a half, it's been a fiasco of towns trying to get moratoriums and trying to rules and trying to ban it. And then when it comes to people, the actual facilities themselves, then it turns into NIMBY. Everybody agrees with the premise of it, but they don't want one in their town. So we did ours rules last year. Brookfield just did theirs this past May.
We had an extremely heated conversation.
It
about
was.
as well.
It was a very heated conversation. And then, because people can, so you can go and find in California and these places all the problems and issues it's had with it. And we've been told that the facilities here are going to look like medical facilities. Out there, they look like Rastafarian shops. So we'll see when that comes to fruition. As far as legalizing marijuana, you can talk to the police and they'll tell you no. Alcohol's legal, and that's fine, but there are problems with alcohol. There are drunk drivers and other issues to that effect. And so, you know, they would know that there'd be problems with this. And there's a certain demographic of people who won't do it because it's illegal, but then if it became illegal, you know, they might, you know, try it, do it, somebody could get in trouble.
I mean, if it went from illegal to legal.
To legal, yes,
You said illegal twice, that's all right.
And it has been shown that it's a pathway to harder drugs, so I'm against legalizing marijuana.
Steve?
That's a loaded question, isn't it? There's, again, so many paths down this. I am not an advocate for legalizing marijuana. Medicinal marijuana, yes, but not the way the current legislation reads. I believe it should be distributed by pharmacies, just like Percocets or any other hard drugs. It is a pathway drug. It has been proven. It's a detriment to society. It's illegal on a federal level, which blows my mind that we can even bring it into the cities and towns of Massachusetts. I think it's a negative impact. It's not good for the citizens of this Commonwealth. I know what Jen's going to say, that constitutionalist piece. I know when she ran for Senate, one of her main platforms was to legalize marijuana. I don't know if you changed your mind on that. You disagree? You do
Never.
not? I believe that's what I heard as a platform.
Please do not
All right.
state my
Well,
opinions
You're,
because
sit-
I've
you're, sit-
never.
you're sitting right here, so it's not like I'm trying to throw you under the bus
No.
or into that weed patch. But I believe government exists for certain reasons, and
Yep.
this is one of them, is to protect the Commonwealth, and it's a detriment.
Well, let me state my position, okay, and not let Steve state my position for me.
Yep.
My position is that I personally don't agree with the legalization of marijuana. Absolutely, 100%, never, ever, ever, ever. But I do believe that what you do in the privacy of your own home is your own personal business. Because I'm a liberty candidate. I believe in freedom. And, you know, what you do in the privacy of your own home is your business, and if you're not hurting anyone else, then if you want to smoke weed, by all means, smoke weed. But I don't agree with the legalization of marijuana.
And not to cut you off, I'm sorry, but that's a whole. I will lose my train of thought, and I apologize.
all right.
That
You're going to have a go at him. Don't worry about it.
I'll stick 'em.
but it's not arguing against her. We're going to lose sight of the fact that it's multi-tier. It's not just the inhaling of marijuana, it's the cooking. Look at California. Why are they cooking marijuana? Because it actually increases the THC in that. And the detriment to the kids that are taking this, they don't understand this. So when they're cooking those, 60s and 70s brownies, it's not just brownies anymore. It's in ketchup, it's in lollipops, it's in candy, it's in foods. It increases that drug effect, the effect on your body. And it's just, it's horrible. I think it's a huge detriment.
Well, this is going to probably not go with what Jen's actual thought is about government, but wouldn't it be a revenue source for us? If we had a little bit of control on it and we could sell it, kind of like
We
cigarettes?
don't need a revenue source, and let me tell you why we don't need a revenue source. Because every time we give the government another damn dollar, they don't spend it correctly anyways. So why should we give the government any more money? I don't agree with that.
And then we're going to have to implement more medical facilities because it's shown to cause lung cancer more effectively than cigarettes. We're trying to ban cigarettes on a non-governmental way. I don't believe in banning cigarettes. I think it's a person's choice as well. But there's no filter on marijuana. That toxin in your lungs is going to increase that effect on the medical, and it's a bad path.
That's a sad excuse for legalizing marijuana. I've heard some and I've heard it that it's a revenue source. So you would actually put your kids at risk and put yourself and other people at risk just to get more money in the state coffers. I mean, it's a ridiculous argument, and I've heard it. I've heard it come out of Beacon Hill from a few reps down there, and it's.
Well, the reason why I asked that question is you look at the state of Colorado, which is.
Yeah, they've legalized
And they've put a ton of money in their coffers. Now, how they're using that money, I don't know.
Yeah, but this is Massachusetts. You have to consider. This is Massachusetts, we're not Colorado. So it's all going to stay in Boston. And what is it going to do? It's just going to grow the government bigger and bigger to the point where now they're going to send even less money back to the cities and towns.
Look at the lottery system where 100% was supposed to come back to that. Look at the head injury fund with the speeding ticket. 100% was supposed to go to the head injury fund. They started bringing that into the general fund. Boston does not manage our money properly.
You cannot give Boston another cent ever. It's very clear. They can't spend it correctly.
I think Jen's got her point across. I'm just.
Well, it's not correctly.
guessing.
They can't spend it quick enough.
I'm guessing.
We talk about it at a local level, and this is back at that local level, is we can't, at a local level, when we do budgets, we can't go over 2.5%. Just this year alone, they went over 8% on an increase in their budget. How would that look?
Listen, I agree. I'm here.
We just have more they'd hire more administrators in Boston to do absolutely nothing.
All right, so we're going to skip marijuana as a revenue source.
Yes, I think that
All
would be.
three of you agree on that,
Yeah.
huh? Steve, you mentioned lottery, and this was one of the things that I had mentioned a couple of years ago. Well, how come we don't have legislature which would allow towns to run their own scratch ticket lotteries?
Because they want the money back in Boston because they believe
So
they can
is
spend
it
the best.
illegal for a town to have their own lottery system?
I don't believe so. I think if it's managed correctly, it works well. But now we get into casino issues. Once those open, now that local aid is going to be cut dramatically. And not only that, again, that multi-tier approach, we're actually allocating money in this year's budget based on revenue from casinos that aren't, the licensing fees that aren't even up and could possibly be gone. Was it like 17 million that we've
70, I think, yeah.
that we've allocated just for the budget based on places that don't even exist?
All right, so
The Boston legislature does not typically tell the truth. They're,
Come on.
they're advocates of prevarication, and so we never see the money. It goes away. It disappears before it ever makes it back. So we can never believe what they say.
all right, we've gone 53 minutes, so we got 7 minutes left. But we're just gonna sit here and continue, and we'll say goodbye at an hour. But we'll continue it so we can.
So nobody's watching because no one's calling.
They're watching. We all
They're
know. We've
watching.
all sat in front of cameras. They're watching.
They're-
We hear
they're
about
watching.
it the next day.
You think?
I know.
Yeah.
Let's one of the biggest national and as well as state hot topics is healthcare. The skyrocketing cost of healthcare, and how do we control it? Where do we go? Listen. Businesses, a study conducted by the Pioneer Institute shows that on average, Massachusetts firms have cost 20 to 30% higher than similar companies in Texas, North Carolina, and New Hampshire in 9 key industries. Why is that? Why do we have to pay more for the same, for healthcare? We're working in the same industries, but why is our healthcare, why is our
One
healthcare?
word, regulation.
We're too overly regulated, very simple. We're overregulated. It's,
Go ahead, Jen, take it.
regulation is oppressive in this state. If the government got out of the insurance industry would have the freedom and the competition to increase value and lower prices. But it can't do that. It has no freedom whatsoever to do that. There is no free market in the insurance industry. This country was built on free markets. The government now controls the government now controls health care.
100%, and it's going to get worse when
yes.
Obamacare is implemented. I had a physical last week, and my doctor, you know, he's an old school guy. He's not that old, great guy. I taught his kid how to drive, know him, friend of the family. He's just sitting there kind of scratching his head trying to poke away at keys on a new computer system because he's trying to get ahead of that Obamacare curve. And they're regulating every single drug. I'm not an extremist by any means, the George Orwellian Big Brother thing. You know, it's almost coming to fruition. When the federal government needs to know that I'm taking Prilosec, there's a problem there.
You're up.
Jen's absolutely right. It boils down to, you know, the country was founded on capitalism and free markets. If it was a free market, there'd be competition. Competition breeds more competition, and costs come down. That's the only reason. That's why everything in the state costs so much is regulation. I mean, we both got builder's licenses. Now we have to take courses to renew our
All
thing.
three of us do.
It
Well,
costs
just,
you
it's not
$600.
even the courses now, and you know, the lead certifications to do anything, and that's just
Upwards of
ridiculous because you got to
1,000.
put plastic down, and then the cost gets transferred to the homeowner. And then they want to regulate building codes in each town. They want to bring that energy efficient homes, which is going to make it even more expensive to homeowners. It's one word, regulation. We have to get rid of it.
Over excessive, burdensome, ridiculous, out of control regulation.
Every
That's
facet.
what
Can we
Massachusetts is known as.
Can we say, with local aid being the number one issue, is deregulation should be issue 1A?
But that's where the local aid comes back, because when you're not regulating certain things in education, in home building, in gas tax going up without a vote, all of those aspects come back to more money in the coffers, more money that taxpayers can go out and spend in the real world, and it's that Reaganomics, the trickle down. You know, I'm an advocate for the trickle down Reaganomics. People will argue against it. If you give more money to spend out there to the people, they're going to spend it, and it's going to regulate our economy.
A mandate, all these school mandates, okay? You know what a mandate is,
Yep,
right?
yep.
Well, a mandate is just another word for regulation.
With the attached unfunded right before it.
Well, it's only funded for a little while.
Yeah.
It's,
For the
they,
fir-
they
for the
give you the
first year.
carrot. They
For the
give you the
first year,
carrot
right.
money, and then they
Right.
take it back.
Right. Well, can I at least say that you all agree as far as the health insurance and the costs and too much government, too much regulation, and not enough deregulation?
It's ridiculous when I have to provide a form to my accountant not to get penalized because I have health insurance or I don't have health insurance. What did my grandfather die in Korea for? He would be turning over in his grave if he knew what's going on out there.
Health insurance should not be operated by the government. It should be operated in the private sector. And the government needs to get out of health insurance.
And these aren't extreme conservative
no,
rants.
no, this isn't crazy right wing.
This is common sense. This is a business approach.
Listen, I had my own. It's kind of funny. All four of us are sitting here, and we're all business owners. And I'm a
But
little.
you're not
I'm,
running.
I'm a little. No.
That we know of.
No. I wouldn't run. I'd run away from political office, not run towards it. But I was the same way. I've always owned my own businesses. I was very young when I started out, and I can remember, you know, family plans being $80 a month. You know, and it would be no problem for a company to pick up a single plan, $80 a month, and a family maybe $120 a month, and then it was just double digit,
Increases, yep.
and it was, you know.
When I started in business, I started my restaurant when I was 22, and I offered full health insurance. I had it for myself, and I had it for all my employees, and I could afford it. I couldn't afford it by the time I sold my business, and that was in 2001. And that was before all of this mess now.
And that's another regulation. If you have a certain number of employees, you have to by mandate, offer health insurance. You know, I haven't offered health insurance to my employees in 10 years because I can't afford it.
Right. The market doesn't allow small businesses in the private sector the ability to afford health insurance, and we should have the ability. If I wanted, like, I'm a single owner, business owner. I don't have employees. It's just me. I should be able to purchase health insurance for myself, but I can't.
Well, you can.
Well, I could, but then I would be
Gotta
in
work another
debt.
20 hours a week. Yeah.
Then I would be in debt to the government.
You have anything to add? Jen?
This state, you're going to hear every candidate this term, all 160 reps and 40 senators, Democrat or Republican, say they're pro-business. But I can tell you, I forget the magazine, or maybe it was Forbes, that Massachusetts was just ranked 49th out of 50th in business-friendly states this year.
I saw that.
Yeah, I can't remember what magazine it was.
And
then
NFIB is pushing that as well.
on top of that, when the legislature passed their tax package last year, and a big part of this was the tech tax, which was the largest income part of the tax package, Governor Rick Scott in Florida sent many Massachusetts businesses letters inviting them to come do business in Florida because it'd be more profitable, they'd save money. So this state, I mean, and you don't have to take our word for it. You can look at Forbes, you can go talk to the governor in Florida, and they will tell you how business unfriendly we are in this state.
You can go in any of your local businesses and ask the business
Just
owner.
ask a business owner in Massachusetts, and they'll tell you. Be happy to relay the message.
We are we're at the end of the hour, but we've got a few more questions here, and then we're going to get into you guys bouncing questions off of each other.
So are we not live anymore?
I think we are not live anymore, Josh. Is that correct? Oh, we are still live.
Well, if you would mind, before we do go off the air, anybody that's watching us, I thank you very much. If you're watching this, you're going out to vote on September 9th. I'd love to earn your vote. I do have a website at stephencomtois.com. You can find out more about myself or give me a call at my home phone, 508-867-3442. And thank you for taking the time to watch this.
Jen?
Yes. Those of you who are out there watching, thank you very much. I appreciate your interest. My website is jenforrep.com, Jen, Jen, number 4, rep.com. Call me anytime. My cell phone is 508-887-3855. I would be glad to hear what your concerns are. Thank you for watching.
Donnie?
Also, thank you everybody for watching. DonnieBerthium.com is, I think I have 3 websites, is for the rep thing. All my information's on there, cell phone, address, everything you need to know. Please, if you have questions, please call.
All right, awesome. We're going to continue on. I don't know how much time we actually have left, Josh, as far as live. Done? We're done? Oh, we're staying live until we're done.
Great,
Fantastic.
great.
Awesome.
Two pitches,
So I
yeah.
think we should
So-
pitch to the audience to call in if you have questions. We're all
I would
anticipating.
Yeah, listen, if anybody's out there and you have questions, I think we're having a pretty good. We had a pretty good first hour. Let's see if we can't continue that for a little bit longer. Let's get into gun law. Police chiefs recently ripped the Senate for stripping a provision out of the gun law, giving them sole discretion for issuing gun permits to citizens. Where do you guys stand on this issue? And I'm not sure who's up. Steve?
Well, I'll let Jen go.
All right, Jen?
I think we've gone.
All right. Well, it was just signed. I just received my goal. I'm a member of Goal, and I also have my license to carry. And I just read the flyer that they send in the mail, and Governor Patrick did sign it. I was kind of hoping it was going to sit in committee and die.
Really?
Well, let me.
That didn't happen.
You got that finger on the pulse, don't you, Jen? Yeah.
So let me go on just a little bit. So under current law, police chiefs must give people who pass a background check and meet other basic criteria a firearms identification card,
Right.
which allows them to buy guns, rifles, shotguns and rifles. But for handguns, police chiefs have discretion on whether to issue a license to carry and deny one if they deem an applicant unsuitable.
Right. Unsavory.
Unsavory.
Yeah. No, you're right. Same word. Same thing.
Unsavory is more food, isn't it?
I would think so. Yeah, my mouth kind of
I was like
salivated.
unsavory. I
Yeah.
think of a bad steak.
So my
I was thinking seasoning salt. Yeah.
So my suggestion would be, and the recommendation of goal typically is, never go for your FID, always go for your LTC.
Yeah, any course that you take,
Yeah,
they're
you
gonna
don't.
recommend that.
Yeah, don't even bother with an FID. Just get your LTC,
But-
then you're covered for everything.
But the question, I don't know if you want to continue answering, was the chief of police.
Right.
Yeah, but he's always had the discretion, and I don't agree with that because that we have 351 cities and towns in the state of Massachusetts, so we have 351 chiefs who have the discretion to say yay or nay. I think we should have one central board.
Well, that's an even slipperier slope because the biggest issue with a license to carry, that background check, anybody that's gone out there, I'm a licensed gun owner, I carry a gun. My grandfather died, like I said, in Korea to protect my Second Amendment right to possess a handgun. If you go to renew your license, you might want to do that about a half a year before it expires, because when it goes down to that federal piece to do the investigation, it's just locked in forever, and you're not getting it back anytime soon. And that's the first piece we need to fix, not just the chief's control. And God bless us for living in the 5th Worcester districts where all the chiefs are great. Can you imagine living in Cambridge and trying to get a
No.
license
Oh,
to
Worcester.
carry?
Worcester's horrible. The chief Jem out there is, he picks and chooses.
Donnie?
She's right. Chief Jim does have a reputation in Worcester. The license to carry, they could decide, but I mean, this was put in this last round, the FID card. They can't just deny you; they have to take you to court. But the fact that it's even in there it is an issue, and it was an issue for Goal because of the issues with the LTC. Now there's going to be the same issues with the FID. So. It shouldn't have got in there, and a lot of the bad stuff.
Is this a live call?
A lot of the bad stuff got taken out, but there's still a couple in there.
All right.
But
I guess we got a question for it's about the gun stuff, but I think it's directed right to Jen. So, hello, are you there?
Yes.
Go ahead, ask your question. Fire away.
Yes, I have a question for Jen. She just said that she thinks that firearms could go border or something to see them. That's in contradiction to what she's already stated about local control. Wouldn't the police chief know the people who are applying for licenses more than a government board?
Yeah, I suppose you're correct, but I would just be looking for some type of uniformity, because what if I have a friend who, had an altercation with one of the police chiefs in another town and now lives in that town and wants to get, a license. So that's, so that's how I'm looking at that. But I do agree with that, but then again, you look at Worcester and you look at Cambridge and then you look at Spencer and you look at Hubbardston. You take 4 chiefs and there's 4 different, they're looking at people with 4 different
you saying they have
sets-
different criteria?
Criterias. Yeah. 4 different sets of criteria as to how they're going to judge and pick and choose who they're going to let have an FID card. So I just think there should be
They
one
have
set of
guidelines.
rules.
Chiefs of police have a guideline that they have to go by.
Chief of police have guidelines that they have
Yes,
to go.
and do you think that Chief Jem in Worcester follows those guidelines?
I would like to hope so, and it is a process in which if someone feels that they are suitable to be a gun owner and the chief says they're not, they have the ability to appeal that to a district court judge, which is the
And
same thing that just got put in place
I agree.
with the new legislation with FID cards.
All right, well, I guess it does make sense, but, every time that you're denied your civil right, it shouldn't cost you money. I don't agree that it should cost you money. I mean, I'm not sure if an appeal costs money, does it?
Well, I actually knew an individual, and Ann Goby and Steve Brewer tried to help this individual out. I highly, highly recommended to this individual to hire an attorney. He didn't, because he didn't want to spend the money. He appealed it. He actually won. God bless him. But that was, I think, through luck more so than.
What I would like to say to him, what's his name?
I don't know, and I think he hung up.
Oh, well,
So-
I would like to say that, in the 5th Worcester district, the 10 towns plus 1 precinct in Ware, that's easy to say, that all the chiefs are going to do the right thing. But throughout the state of Massachusetts, I don't think that works.
But, and this, again, that multi-tier level, the legislation that was just passed now requires all the towns to put a resource officer into our schools. We took ours out years ago because we can't afford it. And it's the argument is back to Columbine, that everyone makes that argument, but from my belief,
listen.
Columbine had an armed resource officer within that building. So what are we trying? It's that feel-good, fuzzy legislation that has the. We talked about this last month. It has the great intent, but it just goes so far and beyond.
Right.
And in this one, we're talking about a constitutional right. This one really gets me.
Yeah, it's a constitutional right. You know, unless you're a criminal and you have a record,
And
you, you sh-
no criminal is going to apply for an LTC. Period. A criminal is going to get an illegal gun and commit
right,
that act.
exactly. So therefore, you know, you should always be able to get a gun, provided you don't have a record.
Mr. Berthium?
Just one
Or an
quick thing.
LTC.
This, like I said about the medical marijuana, where the general idea was put out there without any forethought and regulation. I had a question for a guy the other day. So say I had an FID card and I went to renew it and the chief denied me and he won. Who comes and gets my guns?
They do. I physically, I know.
I know they do, but
Yeah.
who's going to want to go and get my guns?
But this individual, I know of this case because he actually turned his weapons
You
over
have to
me.
voluntarily give them.
What if you
Well,
don't?
he turned them over to me. I physically had to sign a form saying they were in my possession. If they don't, they come to your house and they seize them.
But if you're a law, are you saying because you're not a law-abiding
If you had
citizen?
an
Because you were
FID card,
denied.
you went to renew it
And
and
you
you
were
got denied.
Well, why would you get denied?
Because the chief can decide if
Past-
you get denied.
Right.
Past history.
So if he did that and you got denied, so say you weren't happy about losing your guns, so you want to tell your cops you need to go get this guy's guns. Shouldn't they have thought of that beforehand and had something in the legislation that would have dealt with that?
They should have.
But it's always been there. If you're denied and you lose that right to possess, you have to turn over your weapons. The irony is that you're no longer licensed, so you can't transport that weapon. So it's a great game.
So you just open the door and they come in and,
They'll have to
and
seize
grab
your weapons.
whatever registered gun that you
It
have.
happens with
Registered.
license to carry people as well, not just FID. Either
Oh, no,
way.
I know.
Right,
I'm
either way.
I'm saying
Yeah.
it's a faulted system.
Yeah.
Well, let's go to, and I know this probably sticks in your craw, but let's go to the gas tax. Where do you stand on the gas tax issue, and how do we find other funding for transportation? And Jen, this is probably put in your craw too, because that gets into government. And part of the reasoning on this issue, supposedly, is that we have cars that are more fuel efficient. So they're not using as much gas, so we need to make up a little bit of revenue, and we just
And let's
increase.
not forget about the tea that we have to pay for that we don't even
Hey,
use.
listen, we're still paying for the.
Big dig.
Big dig,
We're
the
still
big
paying for Mass
disaster.
Pike.
The big disaster.
So that's the question. Where do you stand on the gas tax issue? How do we find other funding for transportation? And I'm just going to throw the ball up in the air, and whoever starts can go. Go.
So the gas tax. The problem with the gas tax is, okay, so they raised it 3 cents, it's been going up and it's 24 cents now. Do you see all these towns, we all go through the towns, all the roads are horrible in every town. So this comes back to no money getting out here to do the roads. The real problem with the gas tax is the index to inflation part, because it forgoes any vote that the legislature has to take from now on.
Any discussions?
Yeah, so any time from here on in, whoever gets elected this time never has to deal with the fact that they have to raise the gas tax. So if inflation goes up, the gas tax is going to go up. If the economy tanks, the gas tax isn't going to go back down. And that's why it was done. It wasn't done to keep a steady stream of money. It was done so people in the legislature could avoid the votes they were going to have to take. It was tried in the Senate to do that with the minimum wage, and thankfully that was thrown out to index that to not inflation but growth, and there was a couple mitigating factors in there.
GDP, I think.
Yeah, there was a few, but that's the issue. The state takes in more than enough money to fix the roads and do stuff. Anybody who reads the paper for 5 minutes a night and watches the news knows where that money goes. It goes to welfare fraud, illegal immigrant benefits. It goes to the 10,000 new jobs that Governor Patrick has. It goes to the transportation scandal where we got a grant from the federal government for 105 new vehicles, and we were supposed to get rid of the old ones, but they handed them out to people that work in the transportation department to use them at home and personal use. That's where the money is. If we stopped all that, this state would have more than enough money to fix all the roads and do what we have to do.
and educate our children and so
Exactly.
on and so on and so on. When we have a Commonwealth that has decreased local aid by 40% in 8 years and consistently raised the state budget, something's wrong. It's not just the gas tax itself going to that 24%. We have to pay the federal gas piece as well. Obviously, owning a driving school and having multiple cars out there, it is an issue to me. I have to pass that on to my customers. So it's twofold. It's not just that. The registry, if you just watch the registry, they
See,
just,
that was my next question.
Let's
Let's stay on the gas tax. We'll get to the
Okay,
RMV in a
all right.
second.
But obviously, and that's where the double-edged sword comes, is that we have to maintain our roads. We have so many facets to do that, though. We have the excise tax, we have the registry through inspections, we have the gas tax, there's just so many revenue streams.
And if I'm not mistaken, the excise tax was supposed to go directly right back to the town.
To the towns, correct.
Supposed to.
You know, we have the local aid through the lottery piece that can be allocated for education or Chapter 90, a lot of different facets, but it's just simply not coming past that 495 belt to these cities and towns. And if anybody knows my work ethic, how controlled I am, how organized I am, I'm going down there and I'm fighting every day. I'm knocking on every door. I'm sitting through every conference committee. I'm getting that word out that we're not happy. We can do better. And that's why I'm running. We can do better.
Jen, what's your feeling on the gas tax?
Well, first of all, what I'd like to say is the state budget there's plenty of money in the state budget, and I want to make that abundantly clear. The state budget's right now, it's 36, somewhere between 36 and 38 billion dollars.
36.5.
Yeah, 36 to 38 billion, right around there. There's plenty of money in the state coffers. We're not seeing return on our investment. Nobody in this country, in America, has an issue with paying for services. None of us do. We have an issue when we don't see a return on our investment, and we see our investment abused and violated, like we did at the school.
Sure.
Okay, and like we see with Chapter 70 and Chapter 70, which is a school, and Chapter 90 funds. The reason I say that, I've traveled to all 10 towns.
11.
No, 10 and plus one precinct.
It's still a town. You're still representing
It's only
it.
one precinct.
You're still representing it.
So I have traveled on a road in Hubbardston called Williamsville Road. It's absolutely despicable, atrocious. I'm surprised I didn't take flight on that road. It's so bad. I live off of Route 31 South. That road is deplorable. We don't see a return on our investment. Nobody in this country has anything against paying, but we need to see that return. And we don't see it, therefore why should we give them more?
And it's the same argument with the Mass Pike. I was speaking with a good friend, Reed Hillman, and he's a staunch conservative fiscally. And this is the former commandant of the state police, lieutenant governor, and former state rep. And he brought the point home. No, and just like Jen's saying, nobody is going to argue for paying for a service. The Mass Pike, Jen's probably going to argue to tear these booths down. They serve a purpose.
Why do you keep telling people what my views are?
Because I've heard you say that you want to rip the tolls down. I've heard you say it. And we're running against each other, so we have to compare and contrast. So excuse me if I offend you.
But no, I have not said that.
I've heard it come out of your mouth.
Okay.
But we're paying for that service. How it's managed is incorrect. When we're paying over 80% to the people that are manning these booths and not going back to the road, that's an issue. And that's management.
So suffice to say, all three of you are against the gas tax.
Did you just want a simple yes or no answer?
No, that was good. All right, we got one more.
You get that once in a while. You
what-
get a question, and they'll say yes or no, and then you say, well, no, yes or no. That's what they want.
Never
That's-
met a politician that doesn't want to elaborate on a yes or no question.
Well, that's what this is all about. And it was a simple yes or no question, but you're absolutely right. You got to give your
Well,
at least
we need
you
to
got to
have
give
a
your
reason
opinion.
why.
That's
Why
right. You
we
need-
feel that way.
That's right.
Because
Absolutely.
that's what differentiates us. Why? We
That's-
all agree. So therefore, that doesn't differentiate us. You need to know how
Correct.
we're different.
We've got one more question on this, and then we're going to let you guys have at it about asking each other questions. You're all Republican candidates. You've all been on select boards in the local towns. How does your past voting histories as selectmen, are they in sync with your current stances and views as Republican candidates? In other words, when you were first on the select board, were you a Democrat and then you went to a Republican? What you believe in now, in sync with what you were as a selectman in the Republican Party?
Can I take that first?
Yep.
I would like to say that you know, someday I would like to see us not be scapegoated by party, okay? I've always been unenrolled. I unenrolled. I was an unenrolled voter at 18, and I always remain unenrolled. But in order to run for a seat in the state of Massachusetts, you cannot run as an independent, and Bob, you're sitting over there, and you should know that. You can't run as an unenrolled, you can't run as an independent. You can't run as a vowel.
You can.
You can't run as a as a
can.
vowel. You have to. Well, you can, but you won't win. So you can't run as a vowel. You have to run as a consonant. Okay. So therefore,
Are you calling us a Are you
we're
calling
all
me fat?
We're all consonants. So I chose the Republican Party because I feel as though I agree with the Republican principles of freedom, and I best align with the Republican principles. I'm not a big spender. I'm a conservative. Therefore, I align myself with the Republicans. I've always been consistently conservative fiscally, okay? As far as social issues, I feel as though social issues are personal, okay? And again, I believe in the principles of freedom, and I'm a liberty candidate. And I adhere to the Constitution. I don't believe the government should be intruding in people's private lives. So that's where I stand on social issues. You know, if it's personal, it's not my business. I don't even want to know, and I'm not going to ask.
Just don't call us fat again.
What about yourself, Steve?
I've matured I've seen it.
Because this is your second time?
Actually, it's
Second-
my third
third
time.
run.
I regret running the second time because my opponent was very strong. I was actually talked into that race. I should not have done it. It was a race that my heart wasn't in. First time I was in it. This time I'm in it. When I was on that school committee, I was that Don Quixote running at Head Mills, you know, with my head down, just kept banging and banging and banging. But I matured. I grew up. But I didn't step away from my principles. You know, I have those Republican conservative principles. I'm the Republican chairman of my hometown committee. I established that committee 8 years ago. I'm very proud of what we've done in the town. I learned a lot on the school committee through the members that I serve with. Learned a lot on the finance committee. The chair of that committee is now the administrator of the town of Barry, who's helped me out tremendously, even to this day. And just selectmen. I had a lot of criticism the first time I ran because I just had that school committee piece. But that school committee piece, that finance committee piece, and God bless me, that selectman piece has made me, in my opinion, the best candidate that sits before you. We talk about what we're going to do down in Boston and how we're going to get things done. I'm very proud of what we've done in Brookfield. And I had that first 2 years of my tenure with two extreme liberal individuals. To me, that represents Boston. Those 2-to-1 votes that we had to take constantly, but we got things done. You know, we got that $3.3 million bridge into Brookfield for $20,000 of taxpayer money that we had to allocate for that. We're getting roads repaved left and right. We talk about things that we can do. We have to get that prevailing wage piece out. It's going to pave more roads in the town of Brookfield and the entire 5th Worcester District. It's going to get more bridges built. It's going to get more buildings built. We're currently under a police building contract that we're trying to get a police building built for under $1.6 million. That prevailing wage piece, I don't think is going to get us to that point. We have to have those discussions down in Boston because it does a lot down here. You know, we talk about the overrides that are in all of these towns. In my tenure in these 8 years, we've never had an override based on that 2.5% override in the town of Brookfield, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of my conservative values. I'm proud of my accomplishments in Brookfield, and I believe I have proven that I am conservative, and I've proven that I'm a representative to all the people in Brookfield.
So just real quick, so your past history as a selectman hasn't wavered for what you are right now?
I don't believe so. I think one of my biggest critics, they brought me to task on the CPA, which is that Community Preservation Act. I served as chair for 3 years on a municipal facilities planning committee where we were charged to bring a police station, which we did. We accomplished that. No other committee in the past 10 years has been able to do that in Brookfield. And then town hall renovations. Part of the discussion through that CPA was bringing money back that was already paid with real estate tax, and then the town would have the choice of 1%, 2%, or 3%. I'm not an advocate for it. I voiced that I was an advocate for it, but as a representative to the town of Brookfield with a potential project on the slate, I allowed that to go to the town meeting floor, where that executive body, that town meeting, the people of Brookfield would have the opportunity to vote on it.
Okay.
I sat in the chambers where our representatives didn't allow us to have the opportunity to vote on that, and I honestly said I would never do that, and I have that history.
Donnie?
As far as I can remember, I registered as a Republican at 18. I mean, Ronald Reagan was president, and I went in the military, so, so as far back as I can remember. I'm pretty sure I registered as a Republican in 18, so I've held that line for 30 years.
That was pretty quick. I thought there was
Yeah,
going to be a
I
little
was-
bit
I
more.
was-
Donnie's tired, yeah.
I'm answering the question. I always try to answer the question, so.
Well, that about wraps it up as far as the questions that we had come up with, and some of these came from some other people. And the one, we didn't touch on the RMV.
Where would you like to touch? We're talking about an organization that gets $60 million, takes in $600 million, but they still need more money, where they double their fees consistently at the burden of the taxpayers, constantly downsizing, closing branches, not replacing individuals. They're a service industry, and it's a huge disservice to this Commonwealth.
Yeah.
I sit on the phone for hours just trying to get road tests that are almost 2 months out. 2 hours just to talk to a person on the phone. Can you imagine running a business and not being able to talk to somebody on hold for 2 hours? Horrible.
What's your feelings on it? And I
It's
and
a
I
go-
know
it's a-
exactly where this is going to go, but that's.
How do you know?
it's-
Don't presume to know her position.
Come on, well, why didn't you ask Steve? Steve
She's
seems to know all
consistent
my
because
positions.
she's been very consistent. She's been very consistent with how she feels about control. So
Well,
in government.
the RMV, it's a government entity, and therefore it is ineffective, inefficient, and expensive.
Well, now you're proving them right. You could
So I don't think it operates correctly because it's a government entity. I mean, service, it's a service business. I mean, are you happy to go to the RMV? All you have to do is ask yourself, I'm going to the RMV today. Is this going to be a happy day?
No.
No.
The RMV is the butt of a lot of late night jokes on Letterman and Leno. The problem with that is Steve's right. It takes a small amount of money to run it, but it's a cash cow for the state because the rest of that money goes right into the general fund. Doesn't go anywhere else. Goes into the general fund for all these programs we talked about.
To build bigger government.
But
Exactly.
it's even
That
worse
money's
because what they did is
overspent
they melded it with Mass DOT, so it's not its
Yes.
own entity. Now it's a bigger umbrella.
Yeah.
And we could go on for this for hours.
This is why they can't get the gas tax, because they have plenty of money coming in. We're just not seeing the return on our investment.
Inspection stickers went up, road tests
Yep.
went up, services went up.
Need that money. We need that money.
They gotta have it.
All right, we're going to get into this portion where you guys are going to get to ask. I don't think we can go much more than probably just one question, I would guess, huh? And I know, there's a lot of stuff that we've covered. There's probably a lot of stuff that we could continue to talk about. But I'm guessing each one of you may have a specific question for your opponent or opponents. So we're going to allow you guys to ask a question. We're going to allow a couple of minutes for an answer and maybe even a rebuttal here and there. So there is no specific order. But Jen, I'm going to let you go first.
Well, that is a
Then there is-
specific
yeah,
order.
then there
So I get to ask my opponent's questions?
You get to ask, you get one question.
I get one question, so I have to pick and choose. I have to discriminate, in other words. I have to
No, you could bounce the same question off of both of them. Or if it's specific to one opponent, you can do that.
Okay. All right, specifically then, Donnie,
Yes.
I would like you to elaborate on why you're running as a Republican.
Because I am a Republican.
But elaborate on that, please.
I've followed those values my whole life. I just went over what we did in Spencer, cutting the budget and doing things that no other town in this Commonwealth has done. I mean, nothing. There's no other town that we can find where their employees pay 40% of their insurance. There's no other town around here that I can find where the selectmen gave up their salary. We can find.
But what is a Republican? I know what you've done. What is a Republican? And you're like, if somebody, you know how we're all scapegoated because we're Republicans.
When I think of a Republican, I think of Ronald Reagan, the greatest president we ever had, who brought the people together, did a great job, worked on both sides of the aisle, and got a lot of stuff done, and made the country feel good and safe about itself. That's what I think Republicans should do. Small government, low taxes, only enough money what you need, exactly what we do in town. That's what I think it should be.
Does that answer your
And
question?
if we had Reagan now, oh my God, how much better would this country
yeah,
shape be in?
you want to be like Reagan, but you're you. So how can you be better than Reagan?
I don't think I ever could be better than Reagan. I'll do my best, but I don't think I could. He was just a good guy and was a great president. You know, and he didn't get the credit he deserved. He was the butt of a lot of jokes because he was an actor, but look at the job he did. So.
He was the first president that I was able to vote for, probably you as
Yep,
well.
yep.
I don't know about you.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I don't
I'm
know
not,
you
I'm
who
not,
proposes
I'm not,
to know all
I'm-
my views.
I don't even know where you live anymore, Jen. So I don't know you that well, do I?
Do you have the same question for Steve? That type of thing?
Well, Jen knows why I'm a Republican because I knocked on her door 8 years ago and explained why I was a Republican.
You know what? I'm going to leave the door open. If you have a specific question for him, you can ask him too. If not, we're just going to continue on.
How old are you?
42.
Who was the first president you voted for?
I don't even know. Why would you do that to me? Do the math. 18, the first president.
You should know. The very first president, you should have been
I
proud.
honestly don't.
Well, it wasn't Reagan.
It probably wasn't. I believe it was George Bush, to be honest with you. Senior.
Man, I feel old.
Okay, that's all I had.
Donnie, you're up.
I just got one question for the both of you. Are you guys finding the same thing I'm finding, talking to people and knocking on doors, that you know, somebody that typically votes Democrat or is a Democrat is getting that fed up feeling and wants a change and is.
No, because it's we've all done this before. We've all knocked on doors at local levels. I've done it at state level. Jen's done it at a state level prior to this when she ran for Senate. Unfortunately, that solidarity with party is a killer. I think it's a detriment to this country, let alone this district and this Commonwealth. I've always, you know, I don't know if you're getting it, but every time I'll knock on a door
yep.
or I'll make a phone call, the first question is, what party are you? And you put your head down, and we've had this discussion here in this forum, is, you know, my go-to line was, if you called me when I'm your representative and you asked me to do something for you, is that my first question to you? Are you a Democrat or Republican? I've hired many people in my over 20 years in private and the municipal level. I've never once asked what party affiliation they were. What I've asked is what you can do for me. And that's what we're here for, is what we can do for you. And I truly believe I'm the best candidate out of all 5 of us, let alone the 3, that can get the job done down in Boston.
Are you finding that at all?
No, I don't find that at all.
No?
No, because I have reached out to Democrats. Because what I've done with the voting list is I've looked, you know, I get the Republicans, I've got the Democrats, and I've got the unenrolls. So I've reached out to the Republicans and I've reached out to the unenrolls.
Yeah.
And I haven't got a warm reception from the unenrolls who normally pull D tickets.
D ballots.
Okay?
Yeah, I
I
probably
ha-
haven't either because I haven't kept track like that.
Yeah, so I actually document it and I know who I'm going after
Yep.
because so I can know what type of reception to expect. So
That helps.
yeah, so no, I would say that there are those staunch Democrats out there. They vote Democrat, and when you ask them, well, who are you voting for? Well, I don't know, whoever the Democrat is. Well, gee, that's an intelligent answer.
Those are the people we need to educate
Yeah,
with voting records.
but to say that they're not out there is you know, wrong, because they are. They're
Yeah.
out there, and I mean, all you have to do is look at the Castriata and the Gobi signs that are on the lawns. I
Well,
mean,
I'm proud to say in North Brookfield, a gentleman had a Gobi sign, and he actually called me to put one on his lawn, and that was almost, you know, back in the early days when I ran for state rep as well. I don't know if it's so much proud, but it's memorable. I guess memorable is a better word. I'll never forget and where I got a phone call from a teacher, and she asked me to bring a sign out to her, and I went out and I'm just scratching my head. I'm like, this can't be the right address because it had a Obama lawn sign on her lawn. So those are the kinds of things that are memorable.
I'm
and
tempted.
enjoyable.
I'm actually tempted to go knock on the doors where I see the Gobi and Castriata signs and say, yeah. So tell me about Mr. Castriata. Well, tell me about Ann Gobi.
Yeah,
just to
just-
see, you know, just to
yes.
gauge what they know. I mean, I'm not going to
Some
do
people you won't reach, you know.
No,
you know, they
but-
just, yeah, you're right.
but just to see, you know, just to see what information people have, and it's odd. It's odd.
And that's okay. I don't have a problem with that because I mean, I'd like the Democrats to vote for me too, but
Well, they
we-
can't
we-
right now.
I know.
But on general election,
Yeah, they can.
we need them to win.
And I think that there will be a big Democrat constituency voting for the more conservative candidate
yeah,
in November. I absolutely do believe
I
that.
think you're right.
But I can't tell you who they're going to be.
Yeah.
you know.
All right. Last but not least,
I don't
Steve?
have any questions. I think we've all answered all the questions.
You don't
because-
have anything that you'd want to bounce off
You guys
your
had good
opponents?
questions here.
No, these questions are what
were good ones.
what people out there are asking.
Yeah,
you
this
know.
is the talk of the
Because
towns.
we've gotten some silly ones.
Oh
There's
yeah,
always
you
going
think?
to be, but they mean something to somebody, so they're not that silly. So
Are we ready to wrap up?
Nobody has
All right.
no more calls. Huh?
I don't think we have any
at
more
least we got
calls.
one.
We got one, yeah.
I think we're going to have a lot of people actually watching this. I think there was a lot of people watching.
And we
Can
real-
you tell?
But we really
you guys
can't. We really can't. You cannot sit at home on September 9th. You
No.
really can't. It's going to be an extremely low turnout on primary day. We all know this. All right. We're all targeting our constituents and trying to get out there to vote. You are going to make the difference in this race. You're going to tell people. You're going to network. It's all who the best candidate is. Who's going to best serve you.
Any last words, Jen?
I just encourage people to get out on primary day, September 9th. You know, there have been people that I've talked to about the primary, and people don't even understand the primary process in the state of
They
Massachusetts.
don't even know there's an election
They
period.
don't know there's an election. They don't know the day. They don't know the date. So I'm just going to reiterate, it's Tuesday, September 9th, 2014. So please do make an effort to get out and vote. It's important.
Donnie?
Yeah, thank you everybody for watching. This brings back memories here. We didn't have the green screen though.
No.
Have
you
you
used,
tried the
and
green
you used to
screen?
sit over there, didn't you?
I sat right there. Did you try the green screen?
This is a
yet?
taller chair.
Yeah, it must be a tall shit. Well, I sit hunched anyway, but and thank you guys for doing this. This is great. You know, we get to answer the questions and people get to see us. If you have any questions for me, give me a call. My cell phone number might still be on the town website. It might be. If not, it's on my website and all my literature. So please, and they're both right. You need to get out and vote on September 9th. And I mean, obviously, I hope it's me, but one of us, we really need to win this election for this district. This is a Republican-leaning district, and you know, they voted for Brown and Republican presidents. I mean, Republican presidents. Yeah. So
And it's not even that Republican piece like we talked about. It's your values and what we represent,
Exactly.
and what's going to transfer down to Boston for you.
After sitting here and you know, going over some of this stuff and talking with the three of you, it doesn't matter which one of you guys get into Boston. You guys have your hands full with a lot of stuff, and I commend you for at least even making the attempt to get in there to try and make a difference. I think that's
it's
fantastic.
the fun part.
I don't know about the fun part. I'd like to thank our guests, Donnie Berthium, Jen Gosher, Steve Comtois. This is the end of a special edition of The Other Side, and hopefully we'll see you guys in about 2 weeks. Thank you very much,
Thank you, guys.
everyone, and
Good night.
we'll talk to everybody later.
Thank you.
What do you guys do this every 2 weeks?